Age is a massive factor when it comes to competing in any sport, and F1 is no different. Racing drivers can tend to have quite long-lasting careers that can see them compete well into their 40s. But at this point, it would be rare for drivers to be competing in F1 as it is simply too taxing. I mean, your usual 40-year-old has a decent job, a mortgage, and a wife and 3 kids, so you can see why drivers would usually leave or retire from F1 in the modern era in their late 30s. However, this is beginning to change, and it's all down to one man, Fernando Alonso. See, Fernando Alonso did retire from F1 before, back in 2018, at I'd say the average age of 37, but he wasn't away for long, and returned 3 seasons later in 2021, with everyone's favourite French team, Alpine.
Now, if I were in my car, I'd look at that space and go, well, that's too small, and then I'd go find another. But that's not what a French person would do.
Of course, this lasted 2 seasons before Alonso realised that Alpine was Alpine and moved to Aston Martin for 2023, leaving poor Pierre Gasly to be lured into the French team's trap. But back to Fernando and his Aston Martin adventure. Well, that was a nice touch to the 2023 season, said everyone, while drowning in their relentless tears as the Dutch national anthem is played on repeat 19 times that year. Alonso's return to the front was probably the only positive thing to remember about F1 in 2023. Because of this sudden boost in performance, leading to him battling with the big boys again, Alonso has now signed a contract extension with Aston Martin until 2026, at which point he will be on the verge of the age of 45, the oldest rookie in F1 history. In all seriousness though, 45. I think most of us haven't fathomed how ridiculous that is. Most 45-year-olds are sitting at home complaining about the current economic climate, but not Fernando. He's too busy becoming a TikTok influencer and hunting down his 3rd world championship. The fact that he is still as competitive as ever is also scary, which is where he has inspired other drivers like Lewis Hamilton and Nico Hülkenberg to continue to compete. With Lewis turning 40 when he gets to Ferrari, and Nico turning 39 when Audi entered the sport, both still at the top of their game. Well, Lewis is looking a bit dodgy, but damn, Nico Hülkenberg is the proper definition of a redemption arc. Other drivers like Perez, Ricciardo and Bottas are approaching their mid-30s. I think all but one of them will be around for next year though. Still raging that man left Red Bull in the first place. I don't think I'll ever get over that, to be honest. Magnussen is the youngest of them at 31 years old, and the smooth operator Carlos Sainz is fast approaching 30. Now this is where our problem occurs. F1 only has 20 seats available, making it one of, if not the most competitive sport in the world for a spot to compete. On the current 2024 grid, 35% of drivers are over the age of 30. And if you're shit at maths, that's 7 out of the 20 drivers, the most this century. There are a few reasons for this, and one I've already explained with the inspiration of Fernando Alonso. Another reason though may be because the 2022 regulations made the cars easier to drive, and overall modernisation and development has made this happen. As quoted in the Australian online news outlet news.com.au, the high-tech nature of the sport has seen the cars develop from what were essentially 500 horsepower coffins on wheels into the manicured technological marvels they are today, with Jeremy Clarkson adding that 20 to 30 years ago, no way someone, Carlos Sainz, would be able to drive an F1 car recovering from surgery. Eddie Jordan also commented on the topic in his podcast a few weeks back. With the cars being easier to drive, then F1 drivers don't have to work as hard as they might usually do to max out performance, which would be an appealing factor for an older driver. I mean, just look at Lewis at Imola. Bro just scooted around the track instead of running or cycling. I mean, it makes you wonder how much he actually works in comparison to the others. Maybe it is unfair to judge it off that, but come on man, everyone else was doing it to commemorate the deaths of Senna and Ratzenberger. By the way, love the fact that Bottas is fully kitted out here. He is slowly but surely becoming F1's next meme lord. Back to the issue. Lewis did struggle with the car in 2022, but in 2023, he seemed to have got quite acclimatized to the style of the car. F1's budget cap has, I'd say, been a positive for the sport, making this generation of racing a lot closer between first and last. But there were a few drawbacks, and one of these could be the reason F1 teams are now resorting to older, more experienced drivers rather than gambling on younger talents, and that's to do with the crashing of the cars. As we all know, F1 cars cost a pretty penny, with the average car in 2024 costing $15 million, and with the budget cap at $135 million, you can see that if a team were to hire 2 inexperienced drivers, then they might break the budget cap, resulting in some form of punishment, or equally as as bad, having to reallocate funds from developing the car to repairing it. We saw this with Haas as they reverted back to experience in 2023, with a driver lineup of Nico Hülkenberg and Kevin Magnussen.
Once again, most unsportive driver of the grid.
Suck my balls, mate.
Yeah, you're really good.
And it did prove to work, resulting in a lot less crashes, and has paid dividends for them this year as they have a decent car. The cost cap especially affects those teams that are lower down in the grid, as every dollar and point counts, and we see other teams like Sauber/Audi and Williams starting to look into this, with Sauber announcing the signing of Nico Hülkenberg and will likely partner him with a fellow experienced driver like Sainz, Bottas, and who knows, maybe even Sebastian Vettel. Williams have also been linked with Bottas as well, so it looks like all the 30 plus drivers will stay on, and with Sainz turning 30 in September, that means 8 of the drivers will be 30 plus. This of course has a profound impact on the development of younger drivers, with a lot of drivers having to move to other motorsport categories in order to advance their career, because to put it simply, there are not enough seats available in F1. Okay, some of these drivers may not have made F1 anyways, but the ones who are on the verge, or should probably be in the sport, are all on the sidelines in the F1 garages. Some of these drivers include 2022 F2 champion Felipe Drugovich, the very impressive substitute Liam Lawson, 2023 F2 champion Theo Pourchaire, the runner-up that year Frederick Vesti. Out of these 5, it's looking like only Liam Lawson will be getting a seat, with the rest of the drivers being considered old news, as F1 teams have turned their attention to even younger racers like Oliver Bierman and Andrea Kimi Antonelli, and it's funny that none of the other names are being considered for any of the other seats. An Alpine seat is now opened up because of a certain Esteban Ocon, and I think Theo Pourchaire will fit into that team perfectly. He has a great record, being the second youngest driver to win F2 behind Charles Leclerc in 2017. I mean, don't get me wrong, I love Fernando Alonso to bits, but for me, he should only be in F1 if he's fighting to get that 3rd world championship, and currently it doesn't look like Aston Martin will be providing the car for that anytime soon, but I definitely prefer him to stay over his teammate. Like, that's what makes me even more angry. Not only is Lance not good enough, but he robs a good seat from a younger driver. Simple solution would of course be to add more teams, and that's why it was sad to see Andretti get rejected to join F1 in 2026. And ideally for me, I'd say around 15 teams in F1 would be the perfect amount, because at the moment I'd say they would be able to fill those seats with good competitive drivers. The FIA could maybe edit the budget cap to maybe allow smaller teams to have bigger budgets, and also allow them to close the gap even further to the big teams. They would likely take a chance on younger drivers, as in the past it has also proven successful, with the likes of Leclerc at Sauber in 2018 and Norris at McLaren in 2019, just to name a few. It would just be nice to have more rookies on the grid in 2025 and onwards, and who knows, maybe a few more championship worthy talents. So what do you think? Is F1 becoming an old people's home, restricting the development of youth drivers, or am I over exaggerating?